right, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Texarkana, Texas City Council. Today is Monday, May the 8th, 2023. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all of you in our audience this evening, as well as those who are joining us online. Your participation and attendance this evening is greatly appreciated. We are basically at our capacity for the council chambers, so we do have an overflow area in our conference room, which is located just directly down the hall. So we may be having some people attend there, but still will be able to participate within our council meeting as we move through our agenda this evening. So once again, thank you all very much for being here this evening. At this time, I'll call on our city secretary, Jennifer Evans, to provide a roll call. Ms. Evans?
Ms. Page?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Ms. White? Here. Ms. Williams?
Here.
Ms. Matlock?
Here.
Ms. Hart?
We do have a full council this evening, and I will be bringing the invocation and pledge. If everyone will please stand. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you provided for us. We thank you for this special time of the year with springtime, with flowers blooming and grass growing, and the sights and smells of sports and athletics and outdoor activities. And that we ask you, Father, that you guide our council this evening as we conduct this business on behalf of our citizens this evening. We also ask that you watch over our police department, our fire department personnel as they put their lives on the line each and every day, as well as those first responders throughout our community. And Father, we ask that you be with the community of Allen, Texas, that experienced a very tragic situation this past weekend, that you will be with that city and those citizens, be with those who were affected by the violence that took place there, that you will provide their families with comfort, and that you will guide and direct us in the days to come. We ask these things in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, you may be seated.
Pull this chair right here.
At this time, as we move along with our agenda this evening, we have a very special presentation. It's a LifeNet Special Recognition and Citizen Life Saving Award. And this will be presented in conjunction with LifeNet, as well as with members of our Texarkana, Texas Fire Department. And so at this time, I'll ask you all to come forward and provide the presentation. Thank you all for being here this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, and everyone in attendance. As you mentioned last time, Ms. White, this doesn't happen all that often. We're talking about a cardiac arrest in a save, but we're very pleased with the permission of the patient who's here tonight to tell you a very quick story and to make these awards that we're excited to do. So I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Donna Ford. Ms. Donna is the patient that's involved, and I'll tell you a story in a minute. Her daughter, Cardis Gandy, who is also here and was involved on the scene, and James Davenport, who is the A manager for Hobby Lobby here in town. And with the assistance of the fire department, I can't name them all, but let Chief Black do that. So on September 3rd, in the late afternoon, Ms. Ford was shopping with her daughter and collapsed, also collapsed in the bathroom, so out of sight. And some period of time elapsed before her daughter, Candace, was able to go in and find her collapsed and unresponsive in the bathroom. Immediately recognized what was going on and started CPR. And doing it's not a lot of fun. Doing it on your relative and your mom is extremely not fun, if you think about it. Calling for help then. James, Mr. Davenport, rapidly arrived, detailed someone else to call for 911 and additional assistance, took over CPR. And if you've ever done CPR for any length of time, you get tired extremely fast. So it was so important that both Candace started and James was able to pick up and do that for her until that we arrived. Happened to be very close, about 2-minute response time, but she was successfully converted and she has complete neurologic recovery. And that's not always the situation and the sequence of events and the end result. We're so pleased with that. And so with your permission, we'd like to call them up to the front. Darren, would you go ahead and lead them up there? With us today, Darren Higgs is the area director. Our medical director, Dr. Matt Young, involved with all of this in writing our protocol and doing quality review on what we perform. Donna, would you go ahead and go up? And Candace too, please? And James, would you join them? So in recognition of being willing to share your story and the CPR that was done and the service between LifeNet and the fire department to provide successful recovery, I'd like Darren to present the LifeNet Lifesaver Award to James, and if you'd hold any applause till we finish both awards, and one to Candace for her participation and her support of her mom at the most dire time. Chief?
And we would like to recognize Candace and Mr. Davenport also for their heroic actions. I know for Candace, like we talked about, it can be very critical to do this quickly, and then when it's a family member, it can be even more stressful to remember what to do, and she came through great, and then Mr. Davenport stepped in to assist, so we would like to recognize them. Read this real quick. Awarded this day, Monday, May 8th, 2023, for outstanding service to your fellow citizen by performing life-saving CPR when she suffered a cardiac arrest on September 3rd, 2022. Your quick action and selfless aid made a difference in our community and your family. The City of Texarkana, Texas, and the Texarkana, Texas Fire Department appreciate your contributions.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes our presentation, and we'll wait for any other comments. Pictures? Yes, sir.
Well, thank you all very much for being here. Do you have anything you'd like to share?
I want to say thank you to James, to Candace, to Texarkana LifeNet, to the Texarkana, Texas Police Department, everybody that played a part in saving my life that day. I would not be here if they had not known CPR. I mean, if you don't know CPR, take it from me, go and learn, because you do not know when you're going to be called upon to use that. I know one lady that's done it 6 times in the last 10 years, and thankfully each time it was very successful. So please do go learn CPR if you don't know. Thank you.
I just want to say that without James, I would have not probably freaked out way more than I had. And he actually was there with me in the process of starting everything too with it. So big thanks to him for everything he did.
Way to go, James and Candace.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you all for letting us come before you.
It certainly is refreshing to have those here this evening to be recognized for a life-saving award, and their efforts are greatly appreciated. And I know that the lady's also Candace is also very fortunate and very appreciative as well. At this time, we'll move along to Mayor's remarks and items of community interest. We do have several items that are coming up in the community very soon, and I'll kind of go over those briefly this evening. As a reminder to the council, we are now beginning our summer schedule, so instead of having our annual 2 meetings per month, we will have 1 meeting for the next several months. So our next council meeting will be, let me back up. On Tuesday, May the 23rd at 12 p.m., we'll have the Budget Advisory Committee meeting along with the City Council. And then on Tuesday, June the 20th at 6 p.m. will be our June meeting, which is rescheduled from June the 12th per resolution 2022-113. So once again, our council meeting for the month of June will be on Tuesday, June the 20th. And then in the month of July, Monday, July the 10th at 6 p.m. will be our council meeting. And once again, that will be the only council meeting during the month of July. In reference to Cycle Through History bicycle tours, the Cycle Through History bicycle tours will be on Friday, May the 12th, May the 19th, and May the 26th, starting at 5:30 p.m. at the Museum of Regional History. which is located at 219 North State Line Avenue, Texarkana, Texas. Please check the Parks and Recreation Facebook page for more information. The walkthrough history tours at Spring Lake Park began on May the 3rd at 10 a.m. and will continue every Wednesday morning through May the 24th. There will be special tours on Saturday, May the 13th and Saturday, May the 27th that do require registration. Please check the Parks and Recreation Facebook page for more information. In reference to our Parks and Recreation events during the month of May, on May the 13th, it's a Back to the 80s 5K run that will be held at Spring Lake Park. On May the 13th is the Dragon Boat Race at Bringle Park. This provides a fundraising effort for Hands On Texarkana, one of our local nonprofit organizations in our community. And then on May the 19th through the 21st is the TYSA softball tournament that will be played at both Carr and Wallace Parks. May 20th through the 21st is the P2A USSSA tournament at Spring Lake Park. And then on May the 25th, we'll have movies in the park. And the feature that evening will be Top Gun Maverick. And those movies will begin at dusk, and there will be concessions available. During the month of June, on June the 1st, we once again will have movies in the park. The feature that evening is Lyle Lyle Crocodile. And then on June the 2nd through the 3rd is the Kevin Guy Memorial Tournament at Spring Lake Park. And then movies in the park once again on June the 8th. The feature that evening will be Black Adam. And then on June the 9th and 10th, we'll have the TYSA softball tournament at both Carr and Wallace Parks. And June 10th and 11th is the NCS tournament at Spring Lake Park. June the 12th, our summer camp begins at the Southwest Center. And so, as you know, we have a very, very busy summer ahead of us. And so it's hard to believe that summer is on the doorstep. So at this time, by the way, for additional Parks and Recreation information, you can contact the city at City Hall or look at the city's website for more information. At this time, we'll begin our session involving comments from the public. If there's anyone in the audience this evening who would like to address the council, you're welcome to do so. You will have up to 5 minutes to speak on the topic that you want to speak on. However, there may be several here this evening that may want to have an interest in one of our public hearing items. So if you are here this evening and you're wanting to speak in regards to one of our public hearing items, then I respectfully ask that if you will please wait until we get to that particular public hearing item. We'll be more than happy to listen to your comments at that time. Also, if you want to address the council this evening by way of comments from the public, we do ask that you complete one of these yellow sheets that can be found on the rack there next to the door. Council, I do have several that have signed up to speak this evening. The first citizen is Cameron B. Quinn, and he would like to speak upon the subject of 40002 Canadian Street. So, Mr. Quinn, are you is Mr. Quinn in the audience? Or maybe perhaps in the overflow area? Not here? Okay. Final call for Mr. Quinn. Okay, he's coming? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Quinn. If you'll please come to the podium. I've already introduced to the council and the audience this evening your name and the topic that you want to speak on. You will have up to 5 minutes to speak on that topic. And so if you don't mind, if you will please state your name for the record, and you're welcome to begin your comments, sir.
My name is Cameron B. Quinn. I live at 2 Canadian Circle in the Glenwood neighborhood. And I'm coming here because my father told me that the only interactions worth having are worth having face-to-face. There is a property in our neighborhood, 4002 Canadian Avenue, that several months back, almost a year at this point, burned. This property was then acquired by a company in town called the Renovators, and it was cleaned out, and then they left. And there's been no action ever since. So about 2 months back, my wife tells me the property behind us has been vandalized. This property now has expletives written all over it, lewd images, all sorts of stuff like that. We think local kids have gotten in and spray painted it, all of that kind of things that they do. So I detailed a lot of this in an email that I sent to the city council earlier today, but I wanted to put a face with a name and just kind of give you a little bit of the history on what's been going on there. So my wife actually informed me as we were walking into this meeting that we had to run some kids off of the property earlier today. They had been in there. There's no attempt made to bar access to the property of any kind. There's no boards up that prevent them from getting in. The building was burned through and through. It's not what I would consider to be a stable building. On more than one occasion, we have had homeless people camping out in front of this building. The last one that we particularly ran off was our children were trying to go to our backyard neighbors, and they have to take the sidewalk down 40th Street to do that. And there's a homeless man out there just chilling on the driveway, and we told them, you can't go back there until he's gone. So it's to the point now where their inaction has created a dangerous situation for the kids in the neighborhood. And frankly, I have a six-month-old, and I don't really want to explain to him when he's at reading age what the words on the house behind us mean. So I respectfully ask that the city council consider this and point me in the right direction for what needs to be done about this. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Quinn. This will be handled through code enforcement, so we've already made a record of that, and we'll have someone checking into that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for being here this evening. Appreciate your comments. Our next speaker this evening is Terry Arnold and Gary Gathright, and they would like to address the council in reference to the wine festival. So if you all will please come forward and state your name for the record, and you will have 5 minutes. And welcome to our meeting this evening.
Thank you. My name is Gary Gathright. I'm the operations director for the Twice as Fine Texarkana Wine Festival. Just wanted to take a moment to come before the board and you, Mayor Brueggemann, and thank the city and the Parks and Recreation Department for your unwavering support of the Wine Festival. Our primary fundraising event every year for the Alzheimer's Alliance and our respite center is the Wine Festival. This year, approximately 15,000 to 16,000 people attended the event, and we should net at least $270,000 again, as we did last year from this event. Since our first festival back in 2015, we have cumulatively raised over $2 million for the work that the Alzheimer's Alliance and the Respite Center, and our executive director, Terry, will speak to that in a few moments. All of that money stays right here in Texarkana. We have wineries from all over the state of Texas, including Refugio and Santa Fe, and merchants from as far away as Northwest Arkansas, Houston, Fort Worth, and even Santa Fe, New Mexico, that were part of 70 merchants, 29 wineries, and 10 food trucks that were set up in Spring Lake Park Saturday. We even had a large group of attendees come up from Shreveport and Natchitoches and told us that they would not be missing the festival again. That shows you not only the reach of the festival, but speaks to the economic impact for the entire Texarkana area. Our sponsorship dollars, our in-kind donations from our local partners such as Nance Electric and the City of Texarkana, and other funds that we mentioned that we raise, all stay right here for the Alzheimer's support and our respite care services. It costs money to put on a festival like this. We do charge an entry fee to the wine garden, but there's plenty to do at the festival that is free. You can listen to music that changes on the hour, every hour, see the art, just enjoy what this year turned out to be a very beautiful, albeit warm, day in the park. Our gate receipts basically offset the cost of the festival, so everything else we raise, the in-kind, the sponsorships, everything else goes toward our programs. Yeah, I tend to ramble, sorry.
I'm not going to have you.
Just wanted to specifically thank Robbie Robertson, Donnie Sparks, Jerry Tittle, Jason Lawrence, and the entire Parks crew. Can't say enough about them, and we could not put this festival on without them. To that point, I'd like to read an excerpt of a letter that one of our other committee members wrote to Mayor Brueggemann this week in response to my not being able to attend the festival this year. He says, I was chosen to fill in for Gary, who was attending his daughter's graduation, to oversee the operations side of the festival. Having overseen hundreds of professional golf tournaments as a tournament director for a development tour, they've worked with staffs from private to city-owned golf courses and found many of those had trouble when you got them out of their daily routine, especially when Mother Nature threw a curveball. There were a few that rose to the challenge, and those were their favorite tournaments over the years. After working with Robbie, Jerry, and their staff, I can tell you our city has a parks department it should be proud of. I consider it a privilege and an honor to have worked with these guys last week and see why Gary enjoys his position on the committee and getting to work so closely with them. On behalf of our board, our committee, volunteers, staff, our director, Terry, and our event chairs, Kathy and Mark Van Herpen, we thank the city for all of your support and invite everyone to come out Saturday, May the 4th, Star Wars Day, 2024, for Spring Lake Park for our 9th annual festival.
I'll be fast. Terry Arnold.
He's going to yield the rest of his time to you, Terry, okay?
Thank you. I'm the executive director for the Alzheimer's Alliance. 9 years ago, when I started with this organization, I thought I had lost my mind when I looked at their balance sheet and their income statement. We were not going to be able to sustain for 6 months. I had this project in mind for this wine festival. I came and met with the city manager at that time. He approved it. We moved forward. 9 years later, we are rolling and going and providing all types of resources, education, support for our families in this community. And without the city of Texarkana, Texas, which I would like to say is the only place we ever want to call home for our wine festival, I thank you for that, and the Parks and Recreation especially. Thank you.
Well, thank you all too. A very successful event. It continues to grow each year, and so we thank you for the great work that y'all do in our community. So,
Thank you.
when you come back next year, you speak first, okay? So.
I'm not saying a word.
All right, thank you all for being here this evening. All right, the next speaker we have this evening is Pastor Barbara Stoker, and she would like to address the council in reference to the topic of street repairs. Pastor Stoker, good evening. If you don't mind, if you'll please state your name for the record, please. And I would also like to share with the council that Ms. Stoker also provided a packet this evening with some photos in it, so I'm going to begin here and pass these down. And so if you all would look at them, send them back this way, we'll get through here. And then Ms. Matlock, if you'll just hold them, Ms. Evans will need that for the record, all right? So, Pastor, it's all yours.
Mayor.
Okay, good evening.
Thank you for having us, council representatives. My name is Barbara Stoker, and this is our Deacon Gerard Billingsley. We're from the Mount Sinai House of Prayer Ministries, 100 Gazzola Street, Texarkana, Texas. We've been there 27 years. I've been pastoring there 20 of those 27 years. And we have a food pantry ministry. And we've been doing the food pantry ministry now for 9 years. And since COVID, when we first started doing the pantry, we was only doing it once a month. But when COVID hit, they asked us if we do it weekly. Sometimes we get 3 trucks in one day, 32,000 pounds of food in one day. So the trucks that's coming through, if you see the pictures, have really demolished our street, our driveway, the roads. Friday, we had 2 18-wheelers to get stuck. And Saturday, we had an 18-wheeler to get stuck. My question is, and I know that we talked to the street department, they were going to widen the road, and we appreciate that. We thank you for that. But my question is, can we get a sign to say no 18-wheelers allowed? I don't know. I'm just asking, I don't know. Because when they come across, if you know the areas in Grandview, if they come down Finley and come across Stewart, it's very narrow. So if you look at the pictures, you'll see the one that got stuck Friday was turning on off of Stewart onto Gazzola, and he had to bag up on our property. If you look at the pictures, you'll see where he rutted into the, well, anyway, you'll see it. That's what happened on Friday. Plus, we had to move the traffic. We serve about 200 to 400 people weekly. We deliver 150 food baskets every 2 weeks to disabled people. And we don't want to stop doing this. We're not going to stop, but we need your help. We need your help with the road, with whatever we can do to get the streets repaired. The 18-wheelers, I know it's an industrial area, and I know where some of them going. They're going to Sternos, they're going to Mayo, and I know the GPS is directing them that way. Can we talk to the GPS person and tell them to take them down 7th Street to Kilgore? I'm gonna let our deacon talk. I don't want to run up all the time.
You're exactly right, Pastor. It's trying to redirect the traffic from coming that direction and go back towards Finley when it's not necessary. They can come the other direction and go straight there and stay on that side of the road. But once they make that left on Gazzola and come down toward our church, they're gonna get stuck. And they're gonna rut out the road. And then they'll have to come on down to the church to turn in the parking lot, which tears up the parking lot. We got holes this deep. That makes it hard for the trucks, for the food trucks to come through there. And it's even harder for us to disperse the food out to the people that has to come through there that's full of mud. And it's a little rough. It's a little rough.
Okay.
So we're needing as much assistance as possible.
Okay, very good. We thank you for your comments. Anything else that you'd like to share?
That's it on this one.
Okay. David, is that particular street on the replacement list?
Yes, Mayor. So we've met with Pastor Stoker, and we've talked about this issue for quite a while now. And so it is on the major maintenance schedule that I presented last meeting, and that will be done this summer. So the road work, but we'll have to study the issue on the 18-wheelers and submit a recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for being here this
Thank
evening. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council this evening? If not, we'll continue with our agenda this evening. We'll now move along to appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. Do we have any appointments to boards, commissions, or committees this evening to be made by the council?
I'd like to recommend Ms. Linda Hooks to the Community Health Corps vacancy.
Okay. Any others? Okay. Is there a motion for approval of that appointment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Hart, second by Councilmember Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That appointment's been made. Thank you, Ms. Matlock. At this time, move along to items for consideration. We do have several items this evening, a total of 5 on the consent agenda. Item 1 is to consider approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the City Council held on April 24th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Item 2, consider approval of the minutes of the joint City Committee meeting of the City Council and Texarkana, Arkansas Board of Directors hosted by the Texarkana Airport Authority held on April 27th, 2023 at 3 p.m. Resolution number 2023-064 authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with RBIS LLC of Texarkana, Arkansas for the Macedonia ILO TWU Water and Sewer Improvements Project in an amount not to exceed $674,114. Funds are available in the Utilities 2022-2023 budget in the Texas Capital Improvement Fund at $680,000. Item 4, resolution number 2023-066, approving the request of the Texarkana Airport Authority to execute an agreement with the Yates Foundation, LLC, for naming rights of the new airport terminal. Item number 5, ordinance number 2023-074, amending the police department's budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023, in the amount of $135,000 for changes to incentive pay for officers funded through department reorganization with budgeted funds, recommendation of the Budget Advisory Committee. Unless a council member would like to pull one or more items for, yes, sir, Mr. Davis?
I would like to pull item number 4 and let's act on it by itself. I'm not sure if we want to have something like that on consent agenda. I think that needs the recognition of by itself.
Okay, well, we can certainly do that. So I will have to have a motion to pull this item from the consent agenda, and it will have to have a second and voted on by the council. Is there a motion to pull item 4?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember White. All right, so item 4 has been approved. Mr. Lewis, how do we handle the rest of that consent agenda? Do we handle that separate? We don't have one pulled very often.
First, Mayor, take a vote on your motion in second.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay.
And now proceed with consent agenda minus that item.
Okay, all right. So now I have to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda excluding item number 4. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Williams,
Second.
is there a second? Councilmember Davis, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right. We'll now pull item number 4, resolution number 2023-066, approving the request of the Texarkana Airport Authority to execute an agreement with Yates Foundation, LLC for naming rights of the new airport terminal. As you all know, we do have a new airport terminal that's under construction. It's moving along quite well, and we have had a very, very generous contribution to be made by the Yates Foundation. It's a $3 million contribution for the naming rights of the airport terminal, named in the memory of the late Jim Yates, and his daughter, Sonia Yates Hubbard, is here this evening. Sonia, if you'll please stand. We would like to recognize you. As most of you have been in Texarkana for many years, Mr. Yates founded the Easy Mark Corporation along with his wife, Faye Ellen, and Sonia and her sister, Stacy, also were an integral part of that company. Mr. Yates was he was an avid aviator as far as flying an airplane, and an outstanding businessman, was also very, very active in our community here. And so we just want to thank the Yates Foundation for this very generous gift, which will be naming our new airport terminal in the memory of her father. And Councilmember Davis, I will turn it over to you if you have any additional comments that you would like to make, or anyone else from the council.
Well, I just know that the family as a whole has done so much for our city, and a lot of it we don't ever even know about. And I think this is just the minimum thing that we could do as a council, is to recognize them in a resolution on its own.
Okay. Very good. All right. Any other comments? Sonia, once again, thank you for being here this evening. And Sonia is very, very involved with numerous organizations in our community, chairs Riverbend, and so we just commend you, part of the READY group, the Regional Economic Development Incorporated group, and so we just thank you for everything that you do to help build our community. This time, move along to our first, we do not have any action items this evening, so we'll now move. Pardon me?
We'll need to vote on that.
I'm sorry, I need to vote on that. Is there a motion for approval of item 4?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councilmember White, second by Councilmember Davis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That item has also been approved. All right. We'll now move along to our first briefings. We do have 2 first briefings this evening. Item 1 is ordinance number 2023-065, approving the voluntary annexation of approximately 27.346 acres in the George Brindley Headright Survey A-18 at 3313 Pleasant Grove Road to the city limits of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, and specifying a planned development multifamily 2 zoning district classification. First Church of the Nazarene owner. We'll have a public hearing on this item at our next meeting on June the 20th, and also council consideration at that time. We do have Michelle Daniel from the city staff to brief the council on this item. Good evening, Michelle.
Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, council. So the owner of 3313 Pleasant Grove Road, a portion of which is already within the city limits, has made a request to the city to annex the remainder of the acreage into the city limits. The church's request was one of the requests brought to the council's attention during the regular meeting on March 13th, when the city council authorized preparation of proposed service or development agreements for voluntary annexation. This was approved during its regular meeting held on April 24th, 2023. The proposed annexation assigns this property to Ward 5, and as you said, the proposed zoning district classification is planned development multiple family 2. The owner intends to sell this property to a developer of multifamily structures. If the council approves annexation and if the owner's sale of the property occurs, the new owner must follow the process for planned development site plan approval. Staff does recommend for approval of this request, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Michelle on this item? Okay, thank you, Michelle. Item number 2 is ordinance number 2023-067, amending PD-20-4 general retail for site plan approval on Lot 1, The Grove at Amesdale, located at 5714 Richmond Road. Johnny Gibbs, owner, and Kayla Wood, MTG Engineers and Surveyors Agent. Same schedule on this item, public hearing on June the 20th, council vote that same evening. Michelle?
So this is a request for site plan approval at 5714 Richmond Road. The current zoning is planned development general retail, and the property is currently vacant. The proposed use is a bank. The future land use map designates this property as neighborhood retail. The adjacent zoning is planned development general retail to the north, east, and south, and single-family one to the west. Adjacent land use is vacant property to the north and west, a restaurant to the south, and many warehouses to the east. The site plan consists of the construction of a 4,105 square foot building. The access driveway will be off Richmond Road. There will be a 6-foot by 8-foot monument style sign. Staff and Planning and Zoning do recommend for approval of the site plan with these listed stipulations, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Michelle on this item? Okay, thank you, Michelle. Appreciate the updates. At this time, we move along to our public hearings portion of the agenda. Item 1 is resolution number 2023-046, authorizing use of additional EPA cleanup funds to any person or entity allying with Texarkana Grimm Housing Partners, LP, for the Hotel Grimm project, and authorizing the city manager to execute any and all loan documents or other documents necessary for the project. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on this resolution. If there's anyone who would like to address the council, if you'll please come forward and state your name for the record. Not seeing anyone coming forward at this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the resolution?
So, second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Page, a second by Councilmember Hart. This item pertains to a resolution, so there's not a caption. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The resolution passes unanimously. Moving along to item number 2, resolution number 2023-052, authorizing the city manager to amend the Texarkana Golf Ranch lease agreement. At this time, I declare the public hearing open on this item. If anyone would like to address the council, if you'll please come forward and state your name for the record. Not seeing anyone coming forward at this time, I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The resolution passes. Item number 3, ordinance number 2023-055, rezoning an approximate 9.37 acre tract of land being tracts 173, 173A, 174, and 175, H.S. Janes Headright Survey, A-306, located at 3811 South Lake Drive. Single family 2 to commercial, Michael Petty owner, Kyle Davis attorney. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on this item. If anyone would like to address the council, please come forward. Not seeing anyone coming forward at this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the ordinance? We have a motion by Councilmember White, a second by Councilmember Page. Ms. Evans, the caption, please.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Texarkana, Texas, by rezoning an approximate 9.37 acre tract of land, being tracts 173, 173A, 174, and 175. H.S. Janes HRS A-306, located at 3811 South Lake Drive in the city of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, from single family 2 to commercial, containing a repealer clause, containing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ordinance passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 4, ordinance number 2023-056, rezoning an approximate 1.24 acre tract of land, being the north part of tracts 9 and 10, flower acres, located at 3327 South Lake Drive. General retail to commercial, Phil Hadaway, owner. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on this item. If anyone would like to address the council, please come forward. Not seeing anyone coming forward at this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the ordinance?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Williams. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Page. Ms. Evans, the caption.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Texarkana, Texas by rezoning an approximate 1.24 acre tract of land, being the north part of lots 9 and 10, Flower Acres Addition, located at 3327 South Lake Drive in the City of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, from general retail to commercial, containing a repealer clause, containing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. At this time, move along to item number 5, ordinance number 2023-057, rezoning an approximate .71 acre tract of land, being the south 150 foot of tracts 9 and 10, Flower Acres, located at 2107 Flower Acres Road, general retail to commercial, Phil Hadaway, owner. If anyone would like to address the council on this item, please come forward. This time, we'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the ordinance? Motion by Councilmember White. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Page. Ms. Evans, the caption.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Texarkana, Texas, by rezoning an approximate 0.71 acre tract of land, being the south 150 feet of lots 9 and 10, Flower Acres Addition, located at 2107 Flower Acres Road in the City of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, from general retail to commercial, containing a repealer clause, containing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ordinance passes. Moving along to item number 6, ordinance number 2023-058, granting a specific use permit to allow permanent cosmetics, facial tattooing on an approximate 5.65 acre tract of land, being tracts 388 and 388A. George Brindley Headright Survey, A-18, located at 4115 North Kings Highway, Suite 109. Carter Floyd, owner. Tammy Roten, agent. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on this item. If you'll please come forward and state your name for the record.
I am Tammy Roten, and I was just going to see if you guys have any questions for me.
All right, Ms. Roten, thank you for being here this evening. Does the council have any questions for the applicant? Okay, very good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Public hearing is still open on this item. If anyone else would like to address the council, please come forward. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the ordinance?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Davis. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember White. Ms. Evans, the caption.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, amending the zoning map showing the location, boundary, and use of certain property by the granting of specific use permit number S-774 to allow the location of one additional use of permanent cosmetics in a tenant space on an approximate 5.65 acre tract of land, being tract 388 and 388A. George Brindley, HRS A-18, located at 4115 North Kings Highway, Suite 109, in the City of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, containing a repealer clause, containing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ordinance passes unanimously. Moving along to item numbers. Ms. Roten, good luck with your business. She's long gone, isn't she? She's had about all of me she wanted, all right? So, ordinance number 2023-059, rezoning on an approximate 3.36 acre tract of land, being tract 4D, West Texarkana, GDN, located at 700 Elliott Road. Single Family 2 to Single Family 3, Catherine McGee, owner, Austin Edwards, agent. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on this item. If there's anyone who would like to address the council, please come forward. Good evening, sir.
Austin Edwards on behalf of Catherine McGee, in case the council has any questions.
Okay, thank you for being here, Mr. Edwards. Any questions for Mr. Edwards relating to this item? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Public hearing is still open. If anyone else would like to address the council, please come forward. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval? Motion by Councilmember White. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Williams. Ms. Evans, the caption, please.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Texarkana, Texas, by rezoning an approximate 3.36 acre tract of land, being Tract 4D, West Texarkana GDN, located at 700 Elliott Road in the City of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, from Single Family 2 to Single Family 3, containing a repealer clause, containing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Moving along to item number 8, ordinance number 2023-060, granting a specific use permit allowing the location of a double-wide HUD code manufactured home on an approximate 3.36 acre tract of land, being Tract 4D, West Texarkana, GDN, located at 700 Elliott Road. Catherine McGee, owner, and Austin Edwards, agent. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on this item. If anyone would like to address the council, please come forward. Not seeing anyone coming forward at this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the ordinance?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hart. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Page. Ms. Evans, the caption.
City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, amending the zoning map showing the location, boundary, and use of certain property by the granting of specific use permit number S-775 to allow the location of a double-wide HUD code manufactured home on an approximate 3.36 acre tract of land, being Tract 4D, West Texarkana GDN, located at 700 Elliott Road in the City of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, containing a repealer clause, containing a severability clause, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Now, the ordinance passes. At this time, move along to item number 9, ordinance number 2023-061, granting a specific use permit to allow the location of a cellular tower on an approximate 7.13 acre tract of land, being Tract 44A, JM Golf Headright Survey, A-244, located at 2718 Moores Lane. Patrick Cannon, representing Walnut Church of Christ, owner, and Wayne Barnett, agent. Just as a note to the council, this item was turned down by Planning and Zoning, so it will require a 3/4 vote of the council in order to adopt this particular ordinance. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on this item. If there's anyone who would like to address the council, if you'll please come forward and state your name for the record. Good evening, sir.
Hello, my name is Wayne Barnett, and I'm here on behalf of AT&T.
Okay. Thank you for being here, Mr. Barnett.
Yeah, thank you for allowing us the opportunity. I want to say AT&T is proposing to construct a 170-foot monopole tower. We had initially proposed a self-support tower. We modified that to a monopole in order to try to minimize the visual impact of the tower itself. Understanding there is some concern with the tower going in this area. We will be putting the tower on a 75 by 70 foot leased area enclosed in a chain link fence with privacy slats. The facility will be located on the Walnut Church of Christ property at 2718 Moores Lane. The tower is required to address network capacity and coverage concerns near the intersection of I-30 and Summerhill Road. Daniel Albritton, AT&T's RF engineer, is here as well, and he will give a little more information. I believe there's a presentation PowerPoint that he had put in that you should be able to pull up. He can go through momentarily. The facility, in addition to providing additional coverage, will also include FirstNet, the nationwide public safety broadband network that's dedicated to first responders and those who support them. In addition to changing the design to a monopole, we also moved the location from what we had initially proposed about 100 feet to the southeast. It's still on the same parcel, but by doing that, we were able to move our access to come in from the church parking lot rather than from the end of Sandlin Lane as we had initially proposed. That will also move our our tower closer to the church, further from the neighborhood to the north with a bigger tree buffer between our tower and the subdivision. And additionally, by not having our access come off Sandlin Lane, we won't have a straight shot view into the tower compound. So that move was done to try to minimize the aesthetic impact of the tower and reduce the number of trees that we'd have to remove between our tower compound and the neighborhood to the north. The tower will be built in compliance with all the FCC regulatory requirements, and we're asking for a specific use permit for the placement of this tower. If there's any other questions you have for me, I'll be glad to try to answer. I would like to ask that we allow Daniel to come forward and go through the presentation. It goes through a little more detail on why the need for this tower exists in this specific area.
Okay. I do have two questions, and I'm not sure if they're contained within the presentation or not. So, with the height of the tower, how high above the tree line do you anticipate the tower will be?
It's a 170-foot tower. I don't know the exact height of those trees, but I'm guessing maybe 100 foot above the trees. Maybe I'm guessing at the height of the trees at 70 foot, but whatever the height of the trees, it'll be 170 feet minus the height of the trees above the top.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, there was some information provided that it was 80 feet. The trees were around 80 feet.
Okay, okay, so that would be less than 100 feet then. And then, do you happen to know the distance between where the proposed tower site is in conjunction with the end of Sandlin Street, where it dead ends, an approximate distance?
The survey of the new property is still in progress, but I believe that we're probably in the neighborhood of 300 feet. I think we were at about 160 feet at the previous location.
Okay.
Maybe 200 feet, 200, 300 feet.
200 to 300 feet. Okay, all right. So, okay. Does anyone else from the council have a question before we move along with the presentation? Are we going to do that next, or let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll do follow-up, because I know we have probably several that want to speak this evening, and so that way we can kind of be in conjunction with our information. So.
One thing I do want to add, I believe that it got into the record, but we did have an appraisal firm do an evaluation of this location and their take on what it would do with property values. So I believe that's with you. You guys have that? If not, I have a copy here that I can leave with you. Okay.
Can he share that information with us?
Yeah, if you'll just give it to Ms. Matlock at this end, and then she'll review it and pass it down. Thank you, sir. Okay. Good evening, sir. If you'll please state your name for the record.
Certainly. Good evening, Mayor. My name is Daniel Albritton. I'm the Senior RAN Engineer. That's my title for AT&T Mobility, based out of Little Rock.
Okay, thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you. Simply put, I have a presentation. If you want to go through it, I can certainly address if you have any questions. It shows the need from a network standpoint. Very simply put, we have a lot of customers in Texarkana. Our use is very high. We have overloaded sites, and we're trying to address the overloading, which would manifest the way the customer would see that would be very low throughput speeds, other network issues. By addressing this specific area where there's extremely poor coverage and quality to increase the efficiency. It's being placed to push in or cover part of the area of an existing site, thus shrinking the area, shrinking the area that it's presently covering, so that resources from that tower can be used closer to that one. This one will increase it by, 3-4 times. In the area, we've already added all the other, to get to where we build a new cell site, we add all the other radios for the licensed spectrum we have. We're at that point. We do have plans for new spectrum that's coming in Texarkana once it becomes available. We've actually just this last week launched a new carrier. It's a very high frequency, but it's not enough. Our forecasting shows and our daily statistics show it's still extremely overloaded. And so we are trying to address any customer complaints in this area. If you'd like to see the presentation, I can, but I know you've got other folks speaking. But that's just what they're showing. They're kind of an eye chart and can get technical, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on those.
Okay.
May I ask, were there other locations that were considered around this area before you landed on this property?
Yes, ma'am. The area where I, as an engineer, say I have an area. This is the area I want to cover. I give them a search radius. Hey, go out so far from this. We had two other candidates. This point was actually on the school property there, just southeast there. That was originally chosen, and for whatever reason, that fell out as in contention for use, for negotiations with us and they.
So this was just the agreed upon property, or you could come with an agreement with the current place, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They were approached in initial. Those are brought back to me to evaluate from a technical standpoint. I rank them. I run simulations and predictions and for what I need from an engineering standpoint. And, they were both sufficient. When the first candidate fell out, then we fell back to this one, and they were very willing.
I'm going to leave it up to you as far as your presentation. If you feel like it'd be helpful for the council to be more knowledgeable of this particular activity, you're welcome to do so, or if not,
Do I have the control here, or? For a technology guy, this is a new one for me. I apologize. Oh, there's the arrows. Okay. So as I spoke, I don't know if you can see my mouse.
We can.
Okay. This is the existing cell site. This is road. If you see the red blots underneath it, that's a heat map of the existing traffic we have that we use. It's very generalized because this is proprietary, but I do want to show you all the concentration. I'm sure if you're familiar with the area, I'm sure the traffic's bad there as well. The black outline, what this is called, it's just a coverage footprint. When I run my predictions, what the lines are, we have what we call equal power boundaries. That's where the adjacent site next to it, you see the cell site to the south there. So that's where, when the signal level is equal, that's what you see the lines. So that defines the boundary of this. This is based on our lowest spectrum, our best propagating, our spectrum that reaches the farthest. We do have other, but this is best case scenario. And then I'm showing up in the top left, the proposed site. And what you see on the right-hand side, this is another representation, but so I turned that on and overlaid with the new site up in the top right here. And you see the different colors. So what it's doing is shrinking the coverage of the site. The capacity site, or the one that's overloaded. This is a coverage plot. On the left is the existing. You see the yellows and orange. That's very poor. When you add the poor coverage and the distance from the existing transmitting cell side, it makes for a very poor customer experience. So that's the area we're addressing. And then on the right-hand side, I've turned the new cell site on to show the improvement in the area. This is just a zoom in, a blown up. What you're seeing, the red boundary there, I will briefly, on the left-hand side, set against the traffic map. And then the right-hand side, that's just a representation. What I did is I outlined all the residential areas in the middle of this area. As you see there, I've noted the search ring center right there in the middle. That's the extreme southeast corner of the school property. So there's a radius that was issued for our real estate and our site acquisition personnel to search. And as you see, it's in there, but it's also in the middle of that poor coverage area that I showed earlier. So that being said, we were very limited on the properties that we could even approach according to the zoning. This is a expanded view of Texarkana, and I'd shown this originally to your city planning team. As I said, Texarkana has a lot of AT&T customers. And these are the current just capacity, meaning overloading, on both sides of the state line that we are currently seeking to invest into Texarkana. And again, I show these are on the right-hand side are just the coverage footprints of those sectors that need help. And in each of these, we address any other issues or holes in the network for quality or coverage, which really helps determine the placement of these as we try to make our customers' experience better. And I would conclude there unless there are other issues or questions that you would care to ask.
Any questions by the council? Mr. Davis?
Would you be able to address any other type of pole that could be used? Whenever I was doing my research, you've got some locations that are able to mast them as looking like trees or anything like that. I mean, what have y'all done in the past in residential areas to be able to help the aesthetics?
There are new cell sites. Primarily what I'm familiar with are the cell sites where you put them inside a shroud. It looks like a flagpole or a slick stick. What we have found with those municipalities such as Conway, Arkansas, they're very thick. I'm deploying typically between 7 and 9 different frequency bands, and depending on where those sit, depends on how many radios I can get. What I end up having to do is mount those radios below so the power isn't as good. They're also a lot shorter, and we are very limited on the types of antennas that we can put in there. The latest, greatest, game-changing spectrum that we are currently deploying is called C-band. There's 2 of those bands that we have. We and Verizon won them at auction from the FCC. It's a very wide bandwidth channel compared to what we normally have, and it's also a new beam. It's a beam-forming technology. It's kind of neat, but it's an antenna that's not going to fit in these stealth-type poles. Specifically, now if we're talking a macro platform and putting like pine limbs around that, it's probably a matter of preference. If that is what's required by the council, then I mean, we do what we can to accommodate as we have thus far on with the rest of the plan here. But I don't have any specifics on that. That's not something that I can give you a price or specifics on what they are or what it's going to look like.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your information. Public hearing is still open. The next speaker, if you'll please come forward and state your name for the record.
Yes, and I have a handout.
Yes, ma'am.
Not too many, but hello, my name's Teresa Lippman, and I'm a real estate agent. I have the Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Agency. Actually, back in, I think, April, I moved to Landon Lane. How exciting. And I back right up to where we're going to put this nice cell tower in my backyard. Actually, I mean, it will be right at probably 150 to 200 feet from my back door. And I was kind of really not real happy with that because I have worked in this industry now for 17 years. And I've gone into neighborhoods. In fact, I lived over on Briarwood Circle, and it has one in its backyard. And I have found that it doesn't matter what you say about it's not harmful, it won't hurt, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't hurt your property values. It does, okay? Because it's perception. It is not factual. It's never factual when it comes to buying a home. I mean, you can tell them that you found the perfect home for them. Everything they said they wanted on the list. They go into the house and they say, oh, this is awful. And you go like, well, how did that happen? It's perception. It's all perception. So you can go show them a house over in Briarwood, but as soon as they see the cell tower, they say, well, what's that? What's a cell tower? Oh, I've heard awful things. We don't want to live in this neighborhood. And now you're going to put one in my backyard. And so I'm really concerned because I've read several things and I have several things there. But the National Association of Realtors, I don't know what they did on their study, but the National Association of Realtors says that it will decrease the value of the home between 7 to 9%. So that means that the people that just bought $3 million of property around me in the fall zone, which is what they call 1,500 feet, okay, and they did buy this in the last 6 months, are going to lose anywhere from a value of $215,000 on their market or $276,000 if they have to go up to 9%. So, yeah, I'm concerned about it. It's not a good thing for me. I don't think it's going to be as easy to sell as you think it is. And it will stick up a long way. If you think it's 170 feet and you lay that tower down, how far is it going to go deep in that neighborhood? Well, 1,500 feet is called the drop area, the fall area. And that is a long way. So I figure it's going to go pretty deep into that neighborhood. It's probably not really good for the church either, but they're not there all the time. My dog is in the backyard every day. So, no telling what's going to happen to him. He's going to be fried. But I'm serious. I think that it does emit radio waves. I think there are some things that are there that, it's just like saccharin. Oh, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe. Oh, it's not safe. Well, I think that's what we'll find out later. But, it'll be later, and we'll have 50 of those cell towers all around us. And yes, I'm all for progress. Yes, I use a cell phone every day, and I have internet at my office, and I have internet at my house. But I don't really want it right so close to a really nice neighborhood. Some of the last sales were $375 and $410. And some of them, if you put them on the market right now, would be more than $450,000. Are they going to be real happy when I go in and tell them that they've lost $40,000 of their value? They're not. And they're going to think it's me, and it's not me. So that's my concern, okay? And these are things from the National Association of Realtors, and hopefully it'll tell you some things, okay? And thank you very much for letting me speak.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lippman.
Okay.
Next speaker, please state your name for the record.
My name is Mike Wilson. I live at 2903 Northview. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, especially Mr. Davis, who is our councilman. We've been to 2 planning and zoning meetings, and this one, and it's been pretty smooth tonight until we get here. I want to address this point about the cell tower.
Mr. Wilson, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to let the council know that Mr. Wilson did provide some information, but there's only one set of this information, so I'm going to pass it down here. If you'll pass it back down, and then Ms. Matlock will hold this for Ms. Evans to be entered in the record tonight as well. So I'll begin that. So I'm sorry,
Glad you
Mr. Wilson,
mentioned
go
that.
ahead.
I was going to. Those photographs actually are of three cell towers, one on Norton Street, Texarkana, Texas, one at 12th and Wood Street, Texarkana, Texas, and one in Briarwood Circle, out in the Briarwood addition between Pleasant Grove Road and Richmond Road. And I'm going to get to those in just a second. There's also in there that I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but since you mentioned that packet, in the back of that packet for you and for the board to see, there is a copy or an excerpt from a lawsuit from the District of Columbia where the FCC was sued by an agency in regards to how a city council can consider claims made by opponents in a case just like this. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 has stated and still states that the city council cannot consider the possibility of health hazards from radiation or EMFs, electromagnetic fields, when they consider their approval or denial of a permit for a cell phone tower. That's law, Telecommunications Act of 1996. Since that time, it has been tested and contested a few times. There's a copy of that. I gave Mr. Davis one and also one to the board. I'm sorry, I only have one copy. That kind of condenses that, but it tells the FCC that they've been wrong all this time. They have not been considering health hazards, and they have been telling the boards and the councils that they can't consider it. So that's going to get looked at. The experts, the attorneys, the legal people who look at that say, that's great, we've been needing this for a long time now. Now we can consider some problems. The health hazards that go along with cell towers is an immense problem. The debate about the health hazards. There are experts, physicists, all sorts of experts on this side who say it's harmful. There's another group over here just as well, just as smart, just as learned. They're saying there's nothing there. If there was nothing there, why would we be having the big debates that we have? If there's nothing to worry about, then why argue about it? There's a huge debate about whether radiation hurts people or not. For many years, I was allowed to have the initials ARRT after my name. That means American Registry of Radiologic Technologists. In simple words, I was an x-ray technician, and I did it for years, did diagnostic, therapeutic, radioisotope work. Radiation in a hospital, in a medical center, is something that is one of the greatest concerns in that hospital. It has to be monitored. You have to be protected from it. So I know what radiation is. I am not saying that that tower is going to put out the radiation that a diagnostic x-ray machine or a therapeutic cobalt machine is going to put out, because it doesn't. It's still radiation. Any radiation can harm. It can harm cells. It can harm DNA. So our concern, one of our concerns, is basically health. Now, I may be talking to the wall because the FCC says you can't consider that, but that's hopefully going to get changed. I can talk about the issues the FCC says that we can consider. Number one is the aesthetics of our neighborhood, the look of our neighborhood, how we keep it, what it looks like. Is it appealing to other people? When Ms. Littman tries to sell a home and she comes into our neighborhood, they're from somewhere and they get out in front of my house, they look over the top of the roof and they got a 170-foot cell tower sitting out there. And they say, I don't think I want to live here, for several reasons. Number one, I'm afraid that's going to zap me. Number two, what if it falls on my house? Number three, it's going to devalue my property. There are questions that go with that. So aesthetics, though, you can consider. That's by law, you can do that. So when we say that we keep a neighborhood clean and mowed and we even sweep the curbs and do all those things, those are aesthetics. People come into our neighborhood, want to buy a house. She brings them through. They look at our house and say, I like the house. But what about that thing standing right out there? It's going to be in her backyard. It's also going to be in my backyard. You walk out on my patio, we're going to look right straight up at it. I'm not against cell towers. I'm not against technology. I'm not against advancement. I'm also not against Walnut Church of Christ. I'm not against their church. They're God's people here on earth. They've got a mission and a job. But in this particular case, you wonder why they're involved in trying to put a cell tower somewhere where it's kind of upsetting some neighbors. They also have got some dissension in the church. We have read, that was in the minutes from the first briefing that y'all all had 2 weeks ago, so it's written. That's not my concern, really. It's unfortunate that there's difficulties in the church over something like this. But aesthetics, it's something we worry about. I can also ask you about devalue, or I can tell you about devaluation of property. She's already done that. I've read that nationally, the loss of value in homes is anywhere from about 2 to 21 or 22%. Some surveys say it's 7.6%. Some surveys say it may be about 9.6%. We are older people, many of us in this neighborhood. You've heard of Cornerstone and all those kind of places. They're really nice places. They're where you go when you get older. They're retirement homes, some skilled nursing homes, other assisted living places where a lot of us who are older may consider going. So how do we get there? We have to sell the home we're in to get there. And if there's a tower out there, and if truly it affects it devalues our property, then we don't have as much money now to go into Cornerstone with. So we don't want that to happen. We don't want to walk out of a morning and see the tower. We don't want it devaluing our property, so we have to take less. And if we decide to sell in time to make the decisions, we might not do it, and we might be forced to make a quick decision because most of the people, the realtors, the national surveys will tell you that not only will you take less for it, but it's going to take longer to sell it. So that puts some folks in kind of a bind. We don't want that kind of bind. Aesthetically, I don't want to walk out, my neighbors don't want to walk out in the morning and see a tower in their backyard. Why? Because it sure seems like there's a lot of land around Texarkana where you could put a tower rather than in my backyard and in Miss Lippman's backyard and these other folks' backyards. Why can't it be moved? They've never really discussed that much. There's a map, and I've got a copy of that with me that shows the map locations. There's a whole lot of empty space on that map, so why couldn't it be moved somewhere else? So we talked about aesthetics, devaluation of our property, dangers from a tower. Sure, it could fall over by natural means, tornado, earthquake, something like that. Man-made means, an airplane could fly into it, a bulldozer could hit it that's taking down a tree, a tractor could hit it. It's not impossible they might fall over. We're concerned about that. Exactly where would it be on that piece of ground? Could it fall on my house or your house if you happen to live in the neighborhood? None of you do. But it could. It's a danger. We're concerned about the danger. The fourth thing that the FCC says that you can consider, and we've already furnished that. We did that at Planning and Zoning, and that was petitions with signatures on them. You should, I'm sure somebody's got those. So we did that. We've done our part. We've signed things. We've walked the streets, and we've talked to our neighbors. Y'all have sent out notifications. Y'all didn't, but the Planning and Zoning people did, and told us that this was coming. By the way, the church, or AT&T, originally said that they sent out invitations and talked to the residents in the neighborhood. I never talked to anybody. I never had they also mentioned they sent out postcards. We didn't get a postcard. We were never visited by anybody. So I don't know who got visited. I don't know who got a postcard. So, was the notification as it should have been? There's concerns. Health, yes, although the FCC says you can't consider it, but it's still a concern for us, a great concern. Aesthetics, value of our property, dangers living to it. There's other questions. What about wildlife? What about, there's a big problem with water back there in those trees. What are they going to do with all that water that's standing around? I hope that Justin Snow was going to be here tonight because he knows a little bit more about that, but he's tied up with his kids and couldn't come tonight. So there's concerns that we have. They're legitimate concerns, we think. So we're asking you to deny this request for a specific use permit for a cell tower at Walnut Street, or Walnut Church of Christ off Moores Lane. Why? Because of aesthetics, devaluation. Our concern certainly is health for those above reasons. And if you look at FCC's requirements, we've met all of those. We respectfully ask that the City Council of Texarkana, Texas deny this request for a specific use permit at Walnut Church of Christ so that they can put their cell tower up. Again, I'm not against cell towers. If they want to take their tower somewhere else and put it up where it's not going to interfere with neighborhoods and aesthetically it's not going to make things undesirable, that's fine. That's technology and that's good. But like I said at planning zoning, why put it in my backyard? If you live there, if any of you lived in my house, you wouldn't want to walk out there and look at it either. I appreciate the City Council and you, Mr. Mayor, listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Next speaker, please. State your name for the record.
My name is Andrew Clark. I live at 2802 Landon Lane, right across from Miss Lippman.
Good evening, Mr. Clark.
And I've lived there for 11 years. So I come up today to perhaps offer a middle way. I have not signed the petitions of my other neighbors, and I too did not receive all the notices. And there's no reason for that other than I just am a busy person. In full disclosure, my father worked for AT&T for 35 years, and both of my brothers are engineers for AT&T, presently having worked 20 years plus. My concern is that the city of Texarkana, Texas has no plans and no ability to regulate cell towers. And the spirit of the FCC acts and different laws that are put in place are not to tell you you have to act within 150 days and you have to approve everything that comes before you. It is the spirit of that law is to keep business from being excluded, and otherwise to not make one particular cell provider more exclusive over another, and that offering is for everyone. So given that, it does not preclude you from setting up a series of meetings, either whether that's through the Planning and Zoning Commission, through workshops in and among yourself, to come up with clearer guidelines towards the aesthetics and location of cell towers. I'll remind you that this is a request for a special use permit, so it's an area that requires a special permit for it to even happen to begin with. And so I stand really as a charge to you to do so. I'm an AT&T customer, have been ever since I got my first cell phone in 1995. And I will tell you that I was on Galleria Oaks today, and I had 5G plus service. I have 5G regularly at my home. I do not have 5G on Richmond Road when I'm sitting in the parking lot of Target or Home Depot. So I do question Mr. Albritton's map guidelines. It is also a very known fact that terrain has everything to do with whether or not your cell service works or not, and we have varying terrain in Texarkana. The final thing I'd like to say is that this is not the last of these. As you know, the Planning and Zoning Commission has received numerous ones of these requests in the last 14 months, and I will tell you they will begin to come faster and faster. Because the ultimate goal of an organization like AT&T, who does not have any infrastructure in Texarkana, will never have infrastructure in Texarkana, their goal to make money and to build a business is to offer wireless service and, even more importantly, offer broadband service through wireless. And the only way to make that successful and keep customers happy is to actually bring it down to the block, and that means the neighborhood. So your requests are going to come more numerous, and they're not going to be just for big towers. Mr. Albritton mentioned the new technology. That new technology is really not for Texarkana, and I can guarantee you that Texarkana will not be one of the first places it's launched. It will be launched in big metropolises like the Dallas-Fort Worth area and the Houston area. It will not be launched in Texarkana. I question actually how this benefits the citizens, short of those by the block, by the small neighborhood towers and places to put those antennas. Having said that, your ideas before you to table this or whatever you may do to set up those guidelines, if your attorneys say that, well, you still have to make a decision, There are a couple of areas for which you can approach that, and so there are two cases that I'll cite for you here. The first is the Minnesota Tower versus the city of Duluth in Minnesota regarding the height of towers above a tree line. And at that point, they won the case because the towers encroached on tree lines in neighborhoods that were already in wooded areas. Landon Lane and Whitney Lane are bordered to the south by the woods that are on the property of Walnut Church, and on the east to the woods that are on Northside Church's property and other private property on that area. The average mature loblolly pine grows to a 90-foot height. We've already heard tonight that those have reached about 85, we think, in our neighborhood. That means that it's almost double the size of the height of the tree that this tower will be. So that's the first case you could cite in your written reasons to deny. The second one is a case between Singular Wireless, which is now AT&T. When Southwestern Bell first launched their mobile service program, it was under the name of Singular. When they came back together under AT&T, it became AT&T, versus the city of Brownsville regarding the collapse of a tower. And so this is, we've been told in previous meetings in planning and zoning that the tower is designed to collapse down onto itself. That is not necessarily true. It has everything to do with the forces that are upon it. And given the fact that we still don't yet have a complete survey as to distances around the area for the new location of the tower, and the fact that you can readily see on social media from about a month and a half ago a tower in the Woodland Heights neighborhood of Little Rock coming down in the area of the neighborhood from the tornado, that there is ample evidence that it is not necessarily true that these towers fall right on themselves and therefore do not damage property around them. Finally, as an example of some language that you might seek to adopt, I bring some language from Virginia Beach, Virginia, in which they talk about those very things that Mr. Davis asked earlier about. And these are alternative cellular tower antenna placement. And so they can be done in man-made trees, clock towers, bell towers, steeples, light poles, and similar alternative designs. I find it interesting that Mr. Albritton does not know how to speak to that, because AT&T throughout the United States has had to meet the requirements of municipalities to expand their service in these towers. There are palm trees in California, there are pine trees in Georgia that are cell towers, there are light posts and there are signal lights in Frisco, Texas that are cell towers, there are water towers that are cell towers, there are many other ways to accomplish the goal of increasing the capacity for your customers than erecting a tower. I will also tell you it's so much a business that AT&T uses third parties to build the towers, and then AT&T pluses the antennas. Those third parties are about making money, and you can see that in the example that they proposed, the old lattice work tower. And it wasn't until citizens spoke up that they went to the more expensive monopole tower. So they're not out for us, and I'm asking you to be out for the cities and the city's overall aesthetics moving forward. And if you don't stop now to do that, it's only going to grow worse as you move forward. Thank you.
Mr. Clark. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Jerry Duvall, and I'm here to speak against the tower. I'll get it right here in a minute. I'm a neighbor of Mike Wilson, who spoke earlier, and we live across the street from each other, so I'm within 200 feet for sure of the pattern of this tower. And the concerns that I have are it's a lot of the concerns you've already heard, but one big concern is our property values. And as Teresa has spoken earlier about this, it's for sure it's going to affect your value if you have one of these in your backyard and you're trying to sell your home. And that's a big concern for me, and I think most people it would be. So the health issue is another concern that we have, and I don't know if it can be proven, what kind of health issues result from these towers, but they're telling us that it's likely it admits whatever it is that can cause cancer, and I don't know if that's a proven fact or not, but to me, the main issues that we have are our property values and the health issues. And so, for that reason, I would ask that you deny the petition. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Duvall. Next speaker, please. State your name for the record.
Good evening. My name's Jay Johnston, and thank you, Honorable Mayor, Council, and staff for letting me speak. I'm a member at Walnut Church of Christ, and I'm also a part of the leadership team at Walnut. Some time ago, we were approached by AT&T, and they wanted to enter negotiations or just see if we were interested in possibly putting a cell tower on our property. So we had a lot of discussion with our leadership team, and most everything that you've heard here tonight, we discussed that. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert, and a lot of us go to the internet to get our information, and as we all know, if it's on the internet, it's absolutely true, correct? Yeah. So, it kind of makes a little gray area there. But our leadership team, when we looked at it, we were looking at the current and future needs of the community around there, and that we're going to need that service. And to be honest, also, there is a small revenue stream that will come to us for providing that tower. We were excited about that. It's not a showstopper, but it'll help us with our ministries and helping others in the community around here in Texarkana. And I certainly want to say that Walnut's got a fantastic location. We back up against a really great neighborhood with fine people in it. And we certainly hear what everybody's saying and understand that. But I want to make a point that we want to continue to be good neighbors with these folks, and we want it to be as non-invasive as possible to these people. And you keep hearing the word aesthetics, and you can't really, put a number on that or reach around it. But I'm here in support of the cell tower, representing our leadership team at Walnut Church of Christ. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. If you'll please state your name for the record.
Marcelino Rodriguez. I'm the Spanish minister of Walnut Church of Christ.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you. I want to mention that, we respect the law as a church. Romans chapter 13 mentioned that we need to respect our governments, and you are the government in the city. And I just want to say, if the law authorizes us to have the tower, I think that we need to have the tower because we need it. It's not a question if it's going to happen or not. In some point, it's going to be a need of a tower here in this area of Texarkana. Like it's been mentioned before, it's a need that we have. The church will use that tower and the benefit for that tower to help in the ministries that we have. The Church of Christ in Walnut, the Walnut Church of Christ, we help feeding the homeless every month. Every month, the church helps with the homeless. We have a ministry called Bed for Kids. I don't know if you're familiar with that. We built just last Saturday 50 beds for kids that don't have beds in this community. So the blessings that we receive, we want to share. And also, we also have other programs. We use the facilities every day. Every day we have people there, and every day we help the community here in Texarkana. We want to continue doing that. And that's why we come before you, because you have the wisdom, you have the law. If the state law authorizes this tower, great. If the federal law authorizes this tower, great. But you have the wisdom, you have the experience. We as a church, we just want to help. And we want to have a good relation with everybody. But as I say, and I have a question, if in 27 acres we cannot build a tower, my question is where we can build a tower? Maybe it's not perfect, maybe it's not beautiful, but we don't have a perfect world. That's why we're hoping to go to heaven. In heaven, we're going to have perfect everything. But I just want to mention that. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your effort, and we will respect your decision. And we thank you for everything. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Next speaker, please, if you'll state your name for the record.
excuse me, my name is Angie Reichert. I live on Eli, and I'm directly across the street from the Walnut Church of Christ.
Yes, ma'am.
I enjoy the church itself is a beautiful property, owned a piece of property, and I enjoy looking at that every day, and they're beautiful red roses. I personally would hate to see that defaced with a tower. I don't know about the construction or the traffic it would cause, and how long it would take to construct this tower. How would it affect Moore's Lane and Eli Street? My street is just barely wide enough for two vehicles. And how long would all that stuff be in front of my house building this tower that's going to obstruct our street from people getting to their homes, back and forth to their homes, or people going to Moore's Lane, going to work, or just taking their children to and from school? Mine is, I guess, a purely selfish reason. I hate to see that beautiful scenery across the street from me that I would miss seeing if the tower was built there. So I am against having the tower built there on the property across from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Next speaker, please, if you'll state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Craig Ferrand. I live at 2903 Landon Lane. On the map, if you slide a little bit to the left, you can see my house. Well, maybe not on this map. So I don't even need to be.
You're nearby.
I can tag out. I'm no problem. Anyways, 2903 Landon. My house actually backs right up to the Walnut Street Church property. Yeah, I'm the house in the corner right there with the pool. Lots to digest tonight. I have been part of this process since the very beginning. I did receive a postcard to go to Walnut Street and have a meeting when they originally came out with this entire endeavor. We met with them there and we showed concerns there. And I know that there's a lot of things have been said, that the money's going to be good for the church. I've got no problem with that. I'm also an ordained minister. The God that I serve doesn't need my money. He's going to get it from wherever he needs to take care of the needs in his churches and in those entire situations. I don't feel like through this entire process that all of our questions as neighbors and homeowners have been answered, the biggest one being move the tower. As the gentleman stated, they've got 27 acres. You're right in the back corner of a neighborhood. Push it towards Moore's Lane. We need the tower? Sure, I guess we do. I don't know. It sounds like it's going to happen regardless. But if we can get it out of our backyard in front of their property, they sign the lease, they have the lease agreement, I would love to see it move to a whole different area. Now, you talk about, I don't know if we can do that. This is where the surveys come in and the signals and all that kind of stuff. I'm an oil and gas, I'm an oil and gas landman for 13 years. And going back to the regulations that have kind of been discussed, we can't put a drilling rig, unit, well within 400 to 600 feet of a house. And so through this process, I've learned that there's really no limitations on where they can put things. The FCC kind of regulates them, but the state doesn't. Coming to learn about the notices that were mailed out, that it was people within 200 feet of the tower, and that's set by the state. There's a lot of area here that's gray that we don't know the answer to, that we're putting the cart before the horse. And I feel like, as the gentleman spoke earlier, we need to slow down and we need to have a plan, because there are 7 licensed FCC towers within a 2-mile radius of this. And so Pleasant Grove's got an FCC tower. Can't imagine how that didn't work out. Maybe they didn't try hard enough. I don't know. I also do oil and gas leases and all those kind of negotiations. I understand how this whole process works. I would also ask the council to review the memorandum that's filed of record between AT&T and the church. That's the last line of the lease, says the structure can change. Basically, it's what it says it can do. So we have a lot of concerns as citizens. I know that our backs are against the wall. I know that towers have been built. I watched last week when you guys discussed a 200-foot tower and a 180-foot tower. And all that I ask is that we're talking 26 acres of beautiful wooded area that backs up to these homes. If they want the tower, put it in front of their church. They can put the tower right there, serves a purpose, makes us happy, makes them happy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please. State your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Andrew Venable. I speak from a couple different perspectives. One as a citizen that lives pretty close to the church. I am a member of the church. My wife is the director of the preschool there. I'm also a law enforcement official and have been for 15 years. So I'm going to speak from a couple different perspectives. One, citizen. Two, from my experience. I can't speak. My opinions are my opinions based on my training, my experience, not from my agency. So I'm going to put that caveat on the record. First, I want to speak to medical things. The American Cancer Society does not have any official position or statement on whether or not the RF radiation from cell phone towers, or other sources cause cancer. In fact, they refer to the International Agency for Research on Cancer and the U.S. National Toxicology Program, which both say there is no link between these RF frequency towers and cancer. The federal government, the U.S. Federal Communications Commission, the FCC that we've heard so much about, wrote this: radio frequency emissions from antennas used for cellular and PCS personal communication service transmissions result in exposure levels on the ground that are typically thousands of times below safety limits. So despite some fear-mongering and some conjecture, and Ms. Lippin, the realtor, who said, hey, sometimes it's perception, not fact, the facts are there is no cause for safety concerns. Now, when lawyers get involved, there's always gray area because that's what lawyers fight over. That's how they make their money on both sides. So, yeah, there's going to be court cases on both sides of these things because there's money to be had on both ends. In my work experience, the AT&T engineers spoke about FirstNet. It is a program for when emergencies happen. It allows first responders to communicate on cellular phone networks through a lot of the clutter. As you can imagine, when an emergency happens, similar to tragedies in Uvalde and in Allen, what's the first thing people do? They get on a cell phone and they call 911. And when you have a lot of people getting on the phone calling 911, it clogs the networks and it shuts them down. It impedes the communication between medical, fire, and police, and then getting the needed services and needed communication where it needs to go. So I deal in worst case scenarios. I deal in emergency management issues. And I can tell you that our cell coverage here in Texarkana is behind the curve. We are vastly behind the curve. I appreciate the, hey, not in my backyard, but I didn't see a lot of this kind of fighting for projects that didn't exist in this area of Texarkana. So I urge the council to consider, as this city grows, what is in the best interest of the community as a whole. And now I've been touched by my family where the city council, not here, but in the city where they live, had to take a family home from relatives of ours that built the home with their two hands. They raised their kids, raised their grandkids, and it was heartbreaking for us to witness. But it was not it was a function for the betterment of the community that city council had to make some tough decisions. Ladies and gentlemen, you're on a city council that has to make decisions sometimes that are not fun, that are not exciting, that are not popular, but they are good for the economic growth of this community and for its citizens. I know that's not a popular statement to make, but that is the truth, that you guys are saddled with the responsibility of leadership, and sometimes that means making hard and difficult choices. Now, the real estate market has boomed the last 2 years. Some would say our housing prices are way beyond what they should be. So, in fact, my Bowie County tax appraisal right now came over the last 2 years. It's been double-digit % increases. So we're talking, we put a cell tower up, we might see a decrease in perceptive value. Some might argue we're already over 20, 30% value of what those houses should be, or property values should be. Again, not a popular decision, but guess what? Google that up. So I appreciate your time, appreciate your consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, state your name for the record, please.
My name is Steve Mitchell. I am part of the leadership at Walnut Church. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Just to clear up a couple of things about cards being sent out. We did, as a church, send cards when we held our public meeting to everyone within the radius, which is set by the state. Those individuals who had homes within that radius received a card for the meeting. As concerns the obstruction of the building of the tower, as you heard from AT&T in their presentation, the entrance to that property that will have the monopole on it is going to be from the back of our parking lot, and they can enter through our parking lot. So there will and should not be any obstructions on the roads that, go Moore's Lane or to the side there. Monopole construction, the monopole is for those of you that are not familiar with it, is just a straight pole going up in the air. There's no wires to it. It's not if you've seen the one on Richmond Road, it does not look like that one. These are basically just straight up poles. I can't comment on, I'm not an engineer, so I can't comment on whether or not they will fall on themselves. They're supposed to. But in a tornado, as we all know, anything is possible. The city is going to grow. The Texas side much more quicker than the Arkansas side. And so these issues are going to become more common to you. People don't have telephones in their homes anymore. This is the way we communicate. This is the way we do social media. And God forbid something happens at the school across the street from our church and no one can get a hold of emergency services because the lines get jammed and because the service in that area is weak. We've seen already too much of this, and many of you know that I'm a reporter. I've reported on many of these mass killings that we've had, and the latest one in Allen, it was the quick response of people being able to call on their cell phones to save lives. Saving lives and being able to conduct business, conduct information, and exchange of ideas, it's all going to be done on this in the future. This is it. In fact, they're going to get different every year, phones are, but the technology is going to continue to increase also. When it comes to radiation, the only thing I can say to that is, following what Andrew said, is that we don't have any, and there is no Cancer Society information that supports any of those claims that radiation from these cell towers cause cancer. You're likely going to get more radiation by going outside and picking flowers in the morning from the sun than you're going to get from one of those towers. And that is a fact. Thank you for your time. And as a former elected official myself, I respect your decisions. Thank you.
Mr. Pierce? The public hearing is still open. Is there anyone else who wants to address the council? Okay, at this time, I will declare the public hearing closed. Before we take this matter into consideration, I just want to share a couple of thoughts, or comments rather. Several of you spoke here this evening in our public hearing. Some of you spoke for this proposal. Some of you spoke against this proposal. And I just want to thank you for the way that you conducted yourselves and your comments. It was very respectful of each other. Those of you in the audience who were observing in an observation role, you were also very respectful of those who spoke, and I just want to let you know that I appreciate that very much. It makes our council meeting run more smoothly in that situation, and so thank you for being very attentive as we discuss this particular matter. So I believe I've closed the public hearing, have I not, Mr. Lewis? Okay, so at this time the public hearing is closed. Ms. Matlock?
Can I ask a question before?
Yes, ma'am, sure.
I'd like to know why planning and zoning did not agree with it.
Okay, I'd have to defer to Mr. Orr, the reasoning behind the denial by P&Z.
I'll have to defer to our staff in terms of the exact, if there was a reason given or in the minutes in terms of.
Michelle's coming up, yeah. Welcome back, Michelle.
Thank you. Good evening again. There really was not a reason given for his denial or for the denial of planning and zoning. I remember what he did say that, these are a thing of the future and they are coming up. They are coming up in our town, where they are needed. So that's pretty much all that was said. Yes, I said that there's really no reason that was given for denial of Planning and Zoning Commission. The chair did say that these are, coming up in town, and then there are several of them that are already in town. So that was all that was really said, that a vote was taken.
Mayor, if I may, I was actually at one of those Planning and Zoning Committee meetings, and I do remember one of the big concerns was that the residents were saying the aesthetics of it, just to consider that. And so I know that they did revisit that, but that was one of the main reasons. Aesthetics, hazards, they were listening to what the residents' main concerns were.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember White.
And Mayor, if I could.
Yes, Mr. Davis?
One of the things I think that we need to look at moving forward is if we just go back, and some of this was done prior to me being on council, but the time and effort that was put together for the signs that we have, that's taken away planning and zoning having to go through and approve each and every single sign request that's been put up. And it's definitely eliminated that aspect of it coming to us as well and allowing us to be able to better govern our city. One of the things that I would like to propose tonight is for us to be able to table this and be able to address through workshops the ability to be able to assign which zones in our area can be a right by use, and then what we can do for our neighborhoods in order to be able to designate what we can do aesthetically. And so whether that's, requiring the monopole signs, or if that's going to require some sort of camouflage, if that's going to, somehow limit. Because I think in the past we haven't had the tools to be able to say no. And so, before I think that we set a precedence that's going to, cause issues in the future, I think that we need to set back and be able to identify what we can do moving forward as a city. Because as we all know, everything's, sooner or later going to be 5G. And some of the research that I've done as far as 5G goes, those towers are going to have to be everywhere. And so in part of this workshops, I think that it'd be good to go ahead and identify going into the future, because if you would have asked me prior to me coming on council, do you think that there's a, policy in place that the city has on being able to address cell towers? I would have told you, of course, sure. But that's definitely not the case. So I do think that we need to be able to address some of those issues to be able to protect those neighborhoods, and be able to, identify, what we can do to make this city better. We've had some, realtors out there, some brokers out there that have discussed values. I've spent 8 years as a mortgage loan officer, and I have had over 600 loans that I've done, and I have not seen myself any type of designation where this house is $20,000 less because of where it's located in regards to a cell tower. So I've read plenty of stories. I've had plenty of my friends here send me stories on, different values and what it drops. And, the one thing that I do see in common on a lot of those same studies is once you get past 1,500 feet, that devaluation that is assumed out there definitely drops off. But I do think that we need to be able to address this as a council and be able to put some things in place to be able to progress through the city and be able to provide, our first responders the best that they can have. But at the same time, we need to be able to protect what is Texarkana and where we're going to be placing these cell phone towers.
And I don't agree with that.
Ms. Page?
I guess I hear what you're saying, but my issues are we voted on. We voted on one of these just recently, and the concern was not there to protect that neighborhood. So having the workshops, it's an issue now, which to me is an issue. You understand what I'm saying? So we voted on one on Norton Street, I think. And so I think there was a gentleman here, and he was concerned about the kids and the same issues, but no, there wasn't a concern for a neighborhood and where to put them, but now there is.
I'm sorry. Ms. Matlock, did you have something you
Yeah,
wanted to say?
pretty much what she was gonna say. It looked like we're changing the rules, you know, depending on what neighborhood it's in. Now you wanna do this study and do that. I think it depends on where you live and who lives there.
Ms. White?
Yeah, I was just going to say I understand both sides where we're coming from. I also think that, like Councilmember Davis said, this is something moving forward we're continually going to have to look at. And I think a little bit our hands were tied after the FCC rules were given. And so just moving forward, if we could, you know, say this is what the city as a whole, what we decide, are these the approved zones? And then it comes out of the city's hands and it becomes more, you know, this is just across the board what we decide.
If I remember correctly, everything that they listed in their letter, everything that Mr. Stokes, that before for North Street, everything that was said, Mr. Davis says, oh no, that's not true. Everything that he said, you had a rebuttal for. But now you want to say, let's study it since we're having more coming up. So I just don't understand the reason.
Ms. Hart?
I think that now is not the time to make the decision. I think we need to have a closed session and discuss this. We don't need to keep bringing it up. What side is this and what side is that? Because it's going to happen. They're going to come. They're going to build them. And why are we putting off and getting all turned upside down on something that doesn't seem fair to some, but it's fair to others? So if we can keep our heads level and be fair about it. If you're going to deny one, you're going to deny them all. If you're going to admit one, you should admit them all. It shouldn't make any difference where it is, because the same precepts are going to be everywhere. Everybody's going to say, oh, no, not mine. And then some of them say, oh, yeah, it's all right with me. You got to do the right thing that's right for the future. That's what we make decisions for. And we make easy decisions sometimes, and sometimes we make hard decisions. This is one of those times that is just a tough decision.
One thing I also would like to say is something that I did hear in the Planning and Zoning Committee that concerned me was the fact that there have already been given 2 specific use permits that they came and that Planning and Zoning did approve, but
Right.
those have not been built upon.
Right.
And so my concern is this the best property, or had they already brought the best property? And so, but also my other concern was that the other property you talked about, Pleasant Grove Middle School, that was the original plan. Sorry, it's my son's inhaler reminder. That was the original plan. So it just kind of seems like we're just trying to find whoever they could come in a contract with instead of possibly the absolute best location.
My concern is that planning and zoning didn't have a reason for rejecting it.
She didn't say, she said he didn't give her a reason. So planning and zoning passed the buck, kicked the can down the road to us.
Zoning did listen to the citizens'
Yeah, I believe they
concerns.
did. I believe
And
they
I
did.
did find my minutes, and so the statement was made that everybody relies on cell phones, and there seems to be no rhyme or reason as to where cell towers go. And so, and it also said there's a lot of conflict and concern about the location of the tower. So that's what was said before the vote was
Thank you for
taken.
standing there all that time. I didn't know you were still standing there.
Well, and I think it's important to note that, one of the things that has been brought up at the last meeting is that there was no record, i.e. proof, provided to planning and zoning. So that, therefore, that caused us to have some, I guess, thoughts on why it was denied. I would like to see moving forward maybe some more vocalization from our planning and zoning, just so that we can get a better feel for why each one of them either denied or voted for something. And I think that that's healthy, for it to come out of us as well. And in the previous cell towers that we have voted on since I've been on council, I don't think any necessarily proof has been brought up. There's been stories, there's been, thoughts on what they felt like, but there was no proof. And so I know that there was times where I asked for specific, studies or anything like that, and there was nothing presented to us at that time.
It's the same situation. It's the exact same thing. It is the exact same thing. Chambers are full tonight versus that night it was one person. That's the only difference.
Any other comments? Okay, so looks like to me we've got two items here. Mr. Lewis, I'm going to help me walk through this. So if we have a motion to table, we'd have to have a motion and a second, and then the council would vote on tabling the matter. Is that correct?
A motion to postpone or table, if the council approves. There is no supermajority requirement in that context. It's merely a procedural motion. The majority would decide whether to postpone this matter or proceed by denial. So if that is to be put, council procedurally handle the procedural matters first and then move on to the substantive if the procedural doesn't pass. But if it does pass, please give city staff, me, direction as well on how you want us to proceed if the matter is postponed.
So there'd be a motion and a second, but if the council rejects postponing it, then you'd move on with the motion and a second to vote on the item, correct?
If the council rejects by majority vote to postpone action, then yes, you need to move to the next matter. Or to action on the request.
Okay. All right, so any other final comments or questions? Okay, so is that motion going to be made?
I make a motion that we table.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Ms. Evans, roll call, please.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Locke?
No.
Ms. Hart?
Yes.
The vote to postpone this item is a vote of 5 to 1, so the motion passes to postpone or to table this item. And so there will not be any further action taken on this particular item this evening. And so those of you who came and spoke, we certainly appreciate your comments. We'll do further work on this particular matter and bring it back at another time. This time, move along to item number 10, ordinance number 2023-062, approving the voluntary annexation of 6 adjoining tracts, approximately 150 acres, in the H.S. Janes Headright Survey A-306, Terry Street and South Bishop Road vicinity, to the city limits of Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, zoning district classifications, and site plan for the tracts 1 and 3. Resortments Incorporated owner. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on this item. If there's anyone who would like to address the council, please come forward and state your name for the record. Mr. Williams?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm David Williams with MTG Engineers. Here tonight on behalf of Resortments to answer any questions you may have. We do have representatives from Resortments from Little Rock here with us tonight. Okay. We've had a wonderful evening in the overflow room. So, any questions?
Were you served dinner in there? Cocktails, okay, all right. So, all right. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Public hearing is still open. If anyone else would like to address the council on this item, please come forward. State your name for the record.
I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Tracy Spellmeyer. I'm the Resortments COO, and with me is Zach Mallory, our Director of Development. We are so excited to come to Texarkana and bring you guys the product that our visionary leader, Russ Huckabee, developed. So we're really excited to work with all of you. And we are here if you have any questions. Thank you.
We thank you. We look forward to the relationship as we move forward throughout this project. So thank you very much for your time and your interest and for being here. It looks like an exciting project. So thank you very much. Public hearing is still open. If anyone else would like to address the council, please come forward. Okay, at this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the ordinance?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Matlock and a second by Councilmember Hart. Ms. Evans, the caption, please.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, annexing by petition of landowner the hereinafter described territory of 6 adjoining tracts, approximately 150 acres in the H.S. Janes HRS A-306, Texarkana, Bowie County, Texas, and extending the boundary limits of said city so as to include said hereinafter described territory within said city limits, granting to all the inhabitants of said territory all the rights and privileges of other citizens, binding said inhabitants by all of the acts, ordinances, resolutions, and regulations of said city, and the property therein bearing its pro rata part of the taxes levied by the city, assigning said territory to its adjoining ward, incorporating by reference the municipal services agreement, owner consent voluntary annexation between city and landowner, specifying zoning district classifications and site plan approval, providing for the filing of this ordinance with county records, and updating the city boundaries map, containing severability and superseding clauses, containing legislative findings, and establishing an effective date.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ordinance passes unanimously. Moving along to item number 11, resolution number 2023-063, authorizing the city manager to apply for the Texas Department of Housing and Community TDHCA Homeowner Reconstruction Assistance HRA reservation system. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open on this item. If anyone would like to address the council, please come forward. Not seeing anyone coming forward at this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Davis, a second by Councilmember Matlock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Resolution passes. Item 12 is resolution number 2023-050, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with KBB Consulting, LLC of Texarkana, Texas for the city's homeowners reconstruction assistance, which is known as the HRA program. This time, we'll declare the public hearing open on this item. If anyone would like to address the council, please come forward. This time, we'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The resolution passes unanimously. This concludes our public hearings portion of the agenda. At this time, we'll move along to the city manager's report. Dr. Orr.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few updates to pass along to you tonight. First off, just a sales tax update for you. So our sales tax receipts for the month of April, this was February sales, totaled $1.6 million, an increase of 14.96% compared to the same month last year. Our fiscal date collections totaled $8.9 million, an increase of 8.05% compared to last year. Our first Budget Advisory Committee meeting was held last week. The meeting went well, and so our next meeting is scheduled for this Wednesday, May 10th at noon. We'll devote much of this meeting to Texarkana Water Utilities budget. And please mark your calendars, as we talked about earlier in the meeting, for Tuesday, May 23rd at noon. We anticipate this being a joint meeting between the Budget Advisory Committee and the City Council. And just finally, a quick update from Texarkana Water Utilities regarding Gary Smith's update at the last meeting. We had another 915 residents register for online accounts this past week, so that gives us over 2,500 that have signed up for online accounts since we started the campaign the first week of April. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for David? Okay. Now move along to administrative comments. Any comments by the council this evening?
I've had the opportunity to use the texarkanatexas.gov new part of our city's website to be able to share issues or code infractions or things like that, and it's definitely user friendly. So appreciate the city working so hard on that and continuing to make it better.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Any city staff comments? No further comments? Okay. Unless there's any further business brought before the council, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Page and a second by Councilmember Hart. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Have a great evening.